G'day everyone. Proud to say Bar Karate is brought to you by Radix Nutrition, makers of the most technically comprehensive nutrition products that have ever existed. Unlock your potential with Radix. G'day listeners, welcome to Bar Karate, the sailing podcast. My name's Jordan Spencer and it's that time of the week where I get to hang out with some really cool sailors, but of course have to share the mic with my two idiot mates who've been on fire all weekend. First off, let's talk to Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, Exalted One.
BP.
G'day world. Everyone is very well. We're here in Barcelona. We're here for the actually come and had a look at the AC40s. Now, day one, not too bad. Day two, torrential downpours. Racing cancelled. Yesterday, no wind and hot.
Yep.
But they got around the course. The most important part was I did get to see the start of the first ever AC40s regatta, which was
there you go. Yeah, cool.
fun.
Cool. Well, of course, you did do it with another bloke, so let's bring him in.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Bias.
I'll tell you what, if we were on fire, that fire got put out pretty quickly on Friday.
I've never seen. I mean, what is it? The rain in Spain.
Oh, falls mainly on the plane.
Yeah, again,
unbelievable. But as BP mentioned, practice day, we were all there and we actually watched it from the beach. It was a really cool setup. They had a couple of big screens down the beach. So watched it from there, and then the torrential rain on the Friday.
She opened up on us, didn't she?
She certainly did. So we had to take shelter, of course, in one of the local establishments.
Of course,
but we proceeded to get
the merchandise shop.
The merchandise shop, because everyone had cleared out from everywhere. And the only place there was some room was in the merch shop, and all the roofs of the merch shops were filling up with water. Oh. So it was on the brink of absolute disaster.
It was exciting watching. It was exciting watching that and the bins.
Yeah, exactly. But managed to catch up with a few old boatyard crew, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
So that was awesome, and a few mates from days gone past, and we had a good old time. Yeah. We certainly didn't cover anything. Lucky there was no sailing, BP.
Yeah, I know. Our media credentials just proved to themselves how good we are and how focused and how organised we are.
How disciplined we are.
I love it.
Our main point of topic was watching a roof collapse on a tent. So that was
But
exactly.
I will say, from a media perspective, you guys created the second best hashtag of all time. I think that was a pretty good hashtag.
Which one? The one that says "Where the fuck is Jordan?" or "Who cares?"
Who cares? Just two of the best, right next to each other. I love it. Well done. Well,
we missed you there, mate.
We did miss you. So we were thinking about you the whole time, mate. Trust me.
The next event for sure. We'll have to be there.
Cool.
And we would not, and the next event being in Saudi Arabia, so we wouldn't get in any strife there at all.
No. We might pass that one. All right, cool. We'll come back to that, obviously, in hot time, but we'll bring in our guest, I think. We have a bit of a chat. So, obviously, there's a lot going on at the moment with the AC47, America's Cup 37 in the AC40s. I did the combination there. Obviously, Sail GP's going on. But, of course, one of our favourite events, and particularly for you, BP, is that we start next weekend with the Mini Transat, which is the major event in the mini world, the Mini 650s.
It certainly is.
Yeah. And so we were bantering around about we want to put in and have a bit of a chat to someone ahead of the event. So we were about to reach out to someone, and then our guest has just shown up on the internet with all his branding, and it was just so much fun. We got a lot of laughs out of it. You know, let's say it was uniquely American. Is the best way to describe it. So, and the man's quite keen to chat, and he's got lots to talk about. So we thought we'd reach out and bring him onto the show. So welcome to Barkarati, Peter Gibbons-Neff.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
How are you, mate?
Well, I think the other thing we've got to put into this, Pete, is that one, welcome to Barkarati, but two, we've got more than a connection just to the minis. It's I think you and BP could just run this conversation because I think there's a bit of a time between you two.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sailing the RG650 in this race, and I'd love to hear a
brings a
little more
tear to my
insight
eye.
throughout this talk from BP.
Yeah, it brings a tear to my eye. It's actually what sparked this this conversation because obviously the RG650 is an old program of mine, and I've sort of I don't know where the boats are anymore because they get sold and moved on and blah blah blah. But when you popped up on the feeds, there it was, 837. The American was sold into America, but 837, the RG650. How cool!
No, I'm glad you found it, and I'm glad to be able to race the boat, and it's exciting to have this RG on the starting line.
So, Pete, maybe just you're 1 week away from the start. How did it all happen for you? Like, what with the desire to jump into a mini?
Yeah, so we're 1 week. It's crazy. We're 1 week away from the start, but it has been a long project in the making. I mean, we're going on 3 years here from when I first saw the boat, bought it. So I guess back up to 2020, everything was shut down during COVID, and it was my time to figure out what I really wanted to do next in my life. I've been in the military for about 10 years at that point, full time, but I really wanted to get back into the sailing. I hadn't been offshore in a decade, and I really wanted to go offshore, but with everything shut down, with all the races, with COVID restrictions, there really wasn't anything going on except for the French solo sailing scene over here in France. So learning about the Vendée Globe, Mochas, Class 40s, things like that, and then basically discovering about this whole Mini Transat and the minis. So I started looking into that, and then I discovered that there was actually a mini for sale in Annapolis, Maryland, where I was living at the time, within walking distance. So that's kind of what sparked the interest of it. And then the stars all kind of aligned when I found this mini that it had raced from Newport to Bermuda twice. So it had been offshore a couple times. So it had some miles and looked like it was ready to race. And once I saw the boat and ended up buying it, I was fully committed to doing the Mini Transat. Now, the original plan was to do the 2021 race, but with all the COVID restrictions, that didn't happen. So I was able to basically roll to the next event, which is this year for 2023. So that's kind of the big picture of how I found the boat, how I got into the mini racing. But yes, there's not many minis in the U.S. There's only a handful that I know of.
It's
And this campaign's been based out of Annapolis, or you've been up and down the west coast, east coast.
So it's out of Annapolis. So I actually only had the boat. I bought the boat in September of 2020, sailed it a few times in Annapolis, and then basically put it on the trailer on a ro-ro ship and shipped it over to France that spring. So I'd done a little bit of refit in the yard that winter. Things like replace all of the wires for electronics and replace a lot of the gear on the boat, and then fill it up with a bunch of gear. And then I shipped the boat over. So I didn't really start sailing the boat a lot until I brought it over here to France. But I do live in Annapolis, Maryland full time, and I come over here for a few months at a time to France.
Can you just, when you say, like the boat, there was a boat advertised in Annapolis and it was walking distance and blah, blah, blah. And when you saw it, it sounds like when you saw the boat, you just loved the look of it and bought it straight away. Is that kind of true?
That's pretty true.
Yeah.
So, ideally, if I didn't have the COVID restrictions, I would have liked to come over to France and see some boats, maybe buy one over here. That's what I might recommend to someone else that's an American that's doing the campaign next time. But because we actually couldn't fly to France at the time, we couldn't travel, that was really the only boat available. And, I mean, it's a great looking boat. I did love it when I first saw the boat. And so it was the right boat for me at the right time.
I will say, old BP, he does all the boats he gets involved in. He makes some nice looking boats. He's got a good eye, I reckon. So it looks like a nicely balanced boat. Obviously, it's the classic. It's the older sort of design with a proper bow instead of an ice cream scoop up the front there. But but she looks gorgeous.
Bow.
Yeah, a boat bow. Yeah, it looks gorgeous, mate.
Yeah, no, thank you. And it is a great boat. So yes, it doesn't have the scow bow, but I will say it definitely has more volume up there than some of the other boats, like a Pogo 2, for instance, if some of the listeners know what that is. So some of the older generation boats are very narrow in the front, but at least I do have some extra volume up there. So that does definitely help for, going downwind or reaching and things like that. So, but yeah, it's been a great boat for the last 8,000 miles that I've sailed on it. It's been a great boat to get me across the Bay of Biscay and part of the Atlantic Ocean so far. So yeah.
It does bring a tear to my eye for sure. But look, we did a lot of work on it. But how are you feeling? In the fleet wise. I mean, have you done much sailing against the fleet itself?
Yeah, so I've done in the last 3 years. I've done a fair amount of sailing in the fleet. I've done about 6,000 miles of racing against the other boats. So going into this Mini Transat, I think last I checked, I was around the 7th or 8th most miles in the series boats. So I've definitely been on the starting line a lot. And so I can do pretty well if it's the right conditions. Yep. Certainly the scow bow boats do awesome if it's, heavy air, close reach. It's really hard to compare with that. But for a wide range of conditions, the boat actually does pretty well. And then also, I know I have to sail harder and faster than some of the competition around me. That's a 10-plus-year-old boat, so it's not the newest boat in the fleet, but it's also not a slow boat either, though. No. So I just got to think smart. Sometimes tactically, you have to do a little bit differently than some of the scow bow boats, but it's not a slow boat by any means.
I've got to say, Pete, you've got a chance here. Is there anything you need to know about the boat that you've wondered and you haven't got the answer for? Because you could just ask BP now.
Oh my gosh, I've been wondering about that so much. I wish I had some specific questions, but no, I've been talking to Nico, the designer, which I'm sure you know, BP. But so I've been talking to him over the last couple of years. He was actually really helpful from the beginning.
And that's Nicholas Goldenberg. Nicholas Goldenberg. Nico.
Yeah, so he's been, since day one of buying the boat, he's been sending me documents and everything like that. But no, do you have any inside scoop on the boat that I need to know about?
Mate, just push damn hard.
I love it.
Cool.
Yeah,
drive it like you stole it.
Pete,
drive it like you stole it, mate.
Pete.
Exactly.
Americans in general love a bit of flair.
Yes.
And that's something to be said with the livery
and red, white, and blue
on your boat at the moment. So do you want to talk us through that a little bit and your sponsors and what the story you're putting out there?
Yeah, sure. So this boat definitely has some flair. It's got all the flair on the boat. And when you see it, you can't miss it. It's the only American Mini on the race course for this year. And the reason why I did that, there's a couple things, but obviously because it's the American Mini, you got to have the American flag represented on it, right?
Of course.
And this boat's actually, because it's from Annapolis, Maryland in the U.S., it really is truly the only American Mini over here right now, just not because of myself, but the boat itself. And then I'm also going to be bringing it back home after this race is over. So I really wanted to capture the essence of the American spirit in this boat. But then a big part of it is the reason why I'm racing is to raise awareness for a nonprofit organization that supports military veterans through sailing. Right. And their logo is, it's called U.S. Patriot Sailing. Their logo is the shield with the red, white, and blue. So I really wanted to capture that essence of the organization in it. And then it matched up nicely with my main sponsor, Fawcett Boat Supplies. Also, a boat store in Annapolis there. And so their colors are blue. So it's a nice red, white, and blue. You can't miss it. It's the big American flag. And it came all together nicely.
All we need now is a bald eagle as a figurehead. We'll be all good.
Exactly. I need a big eagle on the front of the boat or something like that.
I love it. We'll come back to some of that stuff in a sec. But let's just, for the listeners who don't know about the race, can you just just explain what you're about to undertake starting next week. What is the Mini Transat?
And what you've had to do to get there.
Yeah, even better.
Yeah, that's a great point because I think a lot of people they underestimate what it takes to actually get to the starting line. You can't just buy a boat, but for big picture, the Mini Transat, it's a 4,050 nautical mile solo ocean race on a 6.5 meter or 21-foot sailboat. And it's a 2-stage race. So the first stage goes from La Sable in France down to the Canaries at Santa Cruz de la Palma. And then you rest, refit, and then restart the race and race from the Canaries across to Guadeloupe. So 2 stages, southern trade wind route. And these boats are part of the Class Mini 650, and they're made for downwind sailing. So big spinnakers, spinnaker poles, flat top main. These boats love just going fast, downwind sailing.
2.4 meters to be exact.
Sorry, say that again?
2.4 meters to be exact.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know the numbers. It's a big spinnaker pole. But
yeah.
Yeah, but so this race has been going on every other year since 1977. And so for this, and then the Class Mini is broken into 2 parts. So there's the prototypes and the series. And as I mentioned before, I'm in the series class. So it's highly regulated with fiberglass boats, aluminum rig. There's a lot of restrictions to help keep the cost down. And then the prototypes have a lot less restrictions where they can be made out of carbon fiber. They have longer canting keels. They can have rotating masts. They can have foils now. So that's more the developmental class. A lot more cost, a little bit faster boat, but we all cross the starting line at the same time. So for this edition, there's going to be 90 boats on the line, and we all start at the same time, but then we're scored separately. So there's 31 prototypes and 59 series boats going into this edition. But it's a big race. And then, just getting to the line, you have to qualify. So there's 90 spots for this year, over 150 boats registered earlier this year for the race, but they break it up by how many miles you do in the races in the years leading up to decide who actually gets on the starting line. So it's a pretty complicated, long, drawn-out process. So you can't just buy a boat and show up for the starting line to go to the race.
It is a massive effort, and it's something that I can say that I have not personally done the race, but I've personally been involved with the preparation back in 2013 with Richard Hewson. The amount of work that goes into this is just huge. I mean, it's like you say, it's not just you can't just buy a boat and show up at the start line. It is we have to do a 1,000-mile qualifier to start with, but on top of that, it's you also get selected to be on the start line. So, it is a massive amount of commitment to be on the start line.
What about Pete? Your qualifier?
That's a.
Oh, sorry. Keep going.
Oh no, I was going to talk about the qualifier. So that's a great point that he brought up was the 1,000-mile qualifier. So you have to do 1,000 nautical mile solo sail either in the Atlantic coast or the Mediterranean. They have 2 different courses set up. And then on top of that, you have to do at least 1,500 nautical miles racing.
1,000 miles on your own.
Yeah, and the hard part about that is normally when you're racing, you have all these minis around you. So if there's a problem or you can talk to people, but being out there by yourself, going from France to Ireland and back, that's the course I did. You're out there by yourself for, 10 days sometimes. I had a couple days of no wind, so mine took about 11 days to do the 1,000 miles. It's painfully slow, but, it's all about completing it for that thing. But honestly, at the end of the day, the 1,000-mile qualifier, that's almost the easy part. It's everything else that it takes to get to that point, to do all the races. I mean, the off-year race for the Mini Transat is to the Azores and back from France. And so that's 2,600 miles for the off-year race. Yeah. So that alone, that was a big challenge also.
Yeah. The other thing involved in the race that we need to understand is that there's not, all the modern data that you can get, you don't get weather routing like you haven't got easy access to anything like you'd normally do on an offshore race. It's all through the organiser, isn't it? Like everything's by radio communication from what I understand.
That's right, absolutely. So we are not allowed to have our cell phones, a laptop, any satellite communication when we're on the boats. So all we can have is a basic GPS with a lat long, and then use paper charts. And then we have a single sideband radio receiver that the race committee will project a daily forecast. And so we have to write down everything they say on the forecast, and then basically draw it out on your chart to see what the weather systems are doing. So they'll give you, the center of the low pressure, the center of the high pressure. There's a cold front going from, Dublin to the Azores, and you got to draw out, hey, this is where I think the cold front's going from. And so you got to draw it out, interpolate what they're trying to say.
Just so cool
for the weather routing.
How's your French? How's your French?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible. Yeah, my French is not good, and my pronunciation's even worse. A lot of the French terms. It's pretty hard to learn French when you're listening to it over the VHF radio, and you're out here by yourself. That's one thing I wish I could have learned more when I was over here over the last couple of years, but I just haven't been here, long enough, because I'll come over here for a couple months at a time, go back home to the U.S. for 6 months, come back over, and that's going to be higher in the priority before I come back over again to France for whatever the next campaign might be.
Yeah.
One thing I experienced was, the whole fleet, if you like, is very accepting, of international sailors. It is almost a family. How have you found it in terms of being sort of brought into the inner circle?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everyone's been so supportive over here.
What is a French discipline?
Sorry, the last part kind of broke up with my Wi-Fi connection is not great over here, so yeah. I got the first part, but the group of sailors over here have been really accepting, and I really appreciate everything that they've done. It's funny when I'm on the radio. Sometimes some people around me know that I don't speak French, so some people will translate stuff for me. Or I've had races where all the other minis are called out by their numbers, but then the race organization will just call me Peter over the radio because instead of trying to say 837 in French, they'll just say Peter, not the name of the boat, none of that. They'll just say Peter on the radio, and so it's funny how that worked out too.
That's cool. That's very nice.
But no, they've all been super supportive though over here.
So cool. Speaking of competitors, obviously a massive French contingent, but who else have we got on the start line from around the world?
So I think there's 17 different nationalities represented here.
Oh, wow.
Obviously a lot of French, a lot of Spanish, a few Italian, but then there's everything from, I think, Slovakia, Uruguay, where else? I'm trying to think.
Japan.
There's Luxembourg, Belgium. Like there's a lot. There's a lot of European, but then there's also a few from around the world. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Japan. Yep, that's a great point. Japan. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'm going through the list now. It's pretty impressive list. The thing to me that sort of does my head in about them, because they're such cool little boats, right? But they're little boats, right? And you're in the middle of the ocean. You've only got a bloody radio. You've got nothing else, and there's only one of you. I don't know how you sleep and how you do. Like, how do you go through the whole process of racing these boats single-handed for such a long distance? Like, are you sleeping for 10 minutes at a time, or you're putting yourself down for 8 hours and then on for 14? Or, how are you playing it?
Yeah, I think if anyone's sleeping for 8 hours or something like that, they're going to either hit something or get run over by someone else or go the wrong way. But yeah, so you're not sleeping very much, just like a lot of solo sailing. But so I think stepping back, so a big part of this race, so the boats, they're definitely small boats, and there's not a lot of weight in the keel. So and it's almost, down below, there's not much. So you're moving every time you tack or jibe the boat, you're moving everything down below. So everything's in stack bags, all your water, you don't have fixed water, bladders or anything like that. So every time I tack the boat, I'm moving, a dozen 12-liter jugs of water on either side, all the bags of gear, safety gear, clothes. And then for sleep, so when I'm close to shore, let's say when I'm about maybe within 100 miles of shore, the most I'm sleeping is about 10 to 12 minutes at a time. And so I'll go into a rest cycle where I'll set my alarm for 12 minutes. Most of the time I don't even sleep that long because I hear something and I wake up. But I'll look around, look at the AIS, stick my head out of the hatch, look around, make sure there's no boats around, and then go back to sleep. And so maybe I'll do 3 to 4 naps in a row, and that'll essentially be sleep for 6 hours for what I'm trying to do. And then try to sleep during the daytime. A lot of times that's a little safer to sleep, in the daytime when other people can see a little bit better. But then when I'm offshore, I think so. When I raced from France to the Azores, the longest I'd ever slept was maybe about almost 40 minutes, but that was, I think, twice. And that was when I didn't see a single ship or mini for 5 days in a row. And I really wanted to catch up on some sleep. But that was a risk, that was a risk management call that I took, was like, okay, I'm going to sleep for 40 minutes, get a lot of sleep. It's going to really help. But most of the time it's 10, 12-minute naps. If you're not seeing anyone for around for maybe 20 minutes, but you basically have to assume the second you go down below or put your head down to sleep, you have to assume a ship's coming over the horizon ready to run you over, whether it's a ship or a fishing boat. Because a lot of the fishing boats don't have their AIS on, and they don't even care if they do see you on the AIS. They'll run right into you over here.
Yes, especially if you've got
we've
colour.
We have our theory about that one. But do you have any sort of, from an alarm point of view, have you got just your classic old kitchen timer? You've got some sort of electric shock treatment to wake up? Or we saw Alex Thompson was running that in the IMOCA. Or you're just running the good old Casio watch?
No, oh my gosh! If I did the watch, I would sleep right through that. No, I have a really loud kitchen, like a electric or a digital kitchen timer. So I set that, and it is ear-piercing loud. Like, it is so loud for that thing that wakes me up. But it's funny you say that, because some people have a timer built into their electronics, and which is great until you run out of battery power, and then you fall asleep and you don't realize you're out of battery power, and then you sleep for a couple hours. So I have it completely separate from my system. If I run out of power, I still have a kitchen timer to wake me up. Yeah. And that thing's been great. I've really been happy with it when I have.
That's cool.
This is another huge point, which I'd like to touch on, because you got to understand that for the listeners, when you do this race, you've basically got no engine, so you've got no way of charging, but you have solar panels, I'm assuming, or an FOI. Or an FOI ethanol
so I have
charger.
solar panels and a hydro generator.
Yeah, hydrogen. Okay, so you have to manage that on top of everything else. So these boats don't have an engine, and so you've got to make sure that your batteries are charging the whole time. There's a lot to think about, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot, because I've had it where I've run out of battery power, and everything is so much harder when you can't rely on an autopilot to help you steer. And so now you have, 20, 25 knots of wind, you're surfing down waves with a big spinnaker, and then your batteries go out and you lose autopilot, and now you're trying to troubleshoot while the sails are up, and it is not fun. And I've done races where I didn't have autopilot for 3 days, and by the end of it, you're just beyond exhausted, and even to the point of hallucinating sometimes. So I've been to that point. I felt it, and luckily now I know, okay, I'm better prepared not to reach that level, or if I do reach that level, how do you slow down so you don't break anything, you don't hurt yourself? And I actually had to do that in the last night of the race from the Azores back to France. It was about 3 days of no autopilot, no electronics, coming to the Bay Biscay with just a flashlight on the main sail of my sail, because everything else was dead. And so I ended up 50 miles from the finish line. I ended up heaving 2 for about 3 hours, just because my body was beyond exhausted, and all I wanted to do was finish the race and not break the boat, prevent me from qualifying for the Mini Transat. So I actually ended up heaving 2 for the first time ever in a race, just to be able to get a couple hours of sleep, because you find that point in your body where you just can't physically stay awake anymore.
Wow, that's insane.
You'd be good at this, Jordan.
Yeah.
You love a sleep too, by the way.
I was just going to say.
But you're tall enough, you could just stick your legs straight out the companionway and use that as an autopilot.
Yeah, just steer with my feet. Yeah, that's it. Pete, we got to ask you a really critical question. I know you Yanks are like us Aussies. We like to when we go into a race, Doesn't matter what the race is. There's always someone we got to beat. You know, we'll have beer bets with them or put some rums on with them. Who's your banter companion?
Nemesis.
Your nemesis.
Nemesis.
You got bets on with.
I wish I had that.
Well,
I'm trying to
you've got a
think.
week to go. Sort it out.
I don't have a nemesis out here.
Oh.
I mean, I have a lot of friends that I've done a lot of races out here, where you're excited to see them out on the race course, but you're even more excited to see them when they're eating your dust and they're behind you in your wake. But no, I mean, there's plenty of people that I've been racing out here with, but I don't have a single person that's my arch nemesis out here that I have to beat. I don't have that for anyone.
Mate, they're going to be listening. Like they're all going to start reaching over and saying, righto, let's put a bet on. So you better start finding one. We'll have to hunt through the list here, but yeah, the series boats. I guess you have to stick to the series boats. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see, because that's sort of a motivator. Like when you're in the middle of the ocean and you're tired and you really sort of got to get yourself motivated. You go, well, there's nothing more important than winning those beers. So, it's maybe.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. What about
go
on, Beep?
Who do you see out there that you think are above and beyond as far as performance wise? Whether it's their natural ability or the boats that they built, is there someone or a couple that just stand out?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple boats that stand out. I think from the performance side of like their skill, I think there's a couple people that definitely stand out that have been doing a lot of the. So there's some, as you guys know, there's training centers, the poles here on the French west coast in the Bay of Biscay here, and so there's some people that have been doing a couple, 1, 2, 3, maybe mini transats already, and they might be on their second or third generation of their boat, and they've been training the last couple of years pretty consistently. They have a lot. There's definitely some people that have a lot of experience coming into this that are been training on their boats a lot. But then there's also some really interesting newly designed boats that this will be the first mini transat for some of these boats that have foils, and the different foil configurations that they have. Some of them are they might have one foil on each side, and then there's some boats that have a foil and a dagger board on each side. And so who's going to come on top is going to be really interesting to see. From a naval architecture perspective, which foils are going to be doing well consistently. But then I think it's also going to be important. Are we talking about leg 1 or leg 2? Because leg 1, foils might be great, but if it's blowing 50 knots in the Bay of Biscay and you're just trying to get through a cold front, trying to survive on the foils might be a little difficult. Whereas if you're in the trade winds out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and you got a beautiful 25 knots, sunny day out, okay, now foils might be awesome. So I think it really depends on the design of the boat and then also what part of the leg you're on too.
Great comment. What you said earlier that there's two legs to this race. When I was involved with Richard, he actually broke it down to 3 legs. He said Finisterre is the key to this race. Finisterre obviously is the corner of Spain.
Oh, absolutely.
There. He said to me just outright, he said, if I get to Finisterre in good shape, I'll be fine. Now, in 2013, the race was delayed for 5 weeks. We were there waiting to start for 5 weeks. They moved the start up to...
oh, my gosh.
They moved the start up to sort of the north of France. And because of the weather, it got delayed. So they wanted to start in September and ended up starting late October. And it was horrendous. So that is probably what he said to me. He said, look, I've just got to get to Finisterre. That once I'm at Finisterre, I've got trades, I can get to Canaries, and I can get across. Finisterre's a big point in this race.
Yeah, that's a great point. And luckily on my boat, I've rounded Cape Finisterre twice already. So I've been out there in some storms along that area. And so I definitely get what he's saying. And that definitely makes a lot of sense. But I'm also happy that I feel a lot more prepared going into this race, knowing that my boat is strong and it's been out there. And yeah, this part of, boat preservation, but then also the competitive aspects of it, of the weather routing and making sure that you're going the right direction or to the right area that you want to go. That's a huge part of the race, definitely.
When do you start going in depth into the weather? Like we're a week out, bit under a week. I'm just having a
yeah. So we're a week out. So this evening was my plan was. Yeah, so this evening I was going to start doing it. Basically, this evening we're a week out. Every day, start looking at keep on looking at the models. I've been looking at the weather, going into this, but it's been changing a lot. There's been a lot of systems, a lot of hurricanes moving around. So now is the time to really, really dive into it and do the final preparations for it. But yeah, that's what this week's all about because the race is Sunday afternoon.
It's amazing. It looks like it's going to be, on the model currently, the start last year, 2 years ago, the start that first as
the weather.
The weather was insane, and obviously they sort of and it made a big split in the fleet and all sorts of things. And it could potentially be quite a large weather system and or a ridge coming through right near that start. So as the model looks at the moment, it could be pretty interesting decision-wise as to how you play it. So for the listeners, definitely you want to watch this. You want to get into this race. If you want to learn about ocean racing, there's going to be plenty to watch. Have you got any sort of basic strategies worked out currently, or as you said, it's all about this week building up now?
It's really all about this week building up now because up until this point, it can change so much. And then the other thing too is time-wise, this isn't a full, fully staffed campaign. It's me and my girlfriend's helping out over here right now. So it's just the two of us getting all the boat work done, the final preparations. So a lot of it's also all the safety inspections that go into it because there's a lot of controls and the boat, the equipment, the medical kit, all those things take up time too. So this week has been really focused on getting the boat ready for all the inspections and completing those inspections and all that kind of stuff. Whereas then, going to this next week, it's okay, the boat's all ready, the boat's packed up, let's focus on the weather routing. So part of it's also a time management thing as well, where, I don't have a full, navigator, studying the weather every single day out here too. So I think part of that goes into as well.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Mate, I guess, BP sort of mentioned how difficult it is just to get to the event, and that was just talking about the sailing. But from a perspective of sort of trying to put the whole program together, it's not just you out there sailing, really, is it? Like, you're not by yourself because you've got all these sponsors, you've got people that have helped out in so many different ways. You mentioned the support, you're trying to support Patriot Sailing, the US Patriot Sailing. So just talk about some of that, what goes on in the background. How I guess it's a village rather than an individual. Is that the way to describe it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's funny for these solo races, it's one person on the boat, but it takes so many people to get that one person in that one boat to the starting line. No, absolutely. So I think from a boat work perspective, I definitely have to say thank you to my girlfriend, Jane, who's listening to this podcast. She's been a part of the campaign from the very beginning. When I first bought the boat, we've done a ton of work together. But then from a funding standpoint, yeah, absolutely. I have some sponsors that have definitely helped out with a lot of the gear. So before I shipped the boat over to France, we were able to get a lot of that gear onto the boat itself over here. So things like Fawcett Boat Supplies in Annapolis, Maryland, all my foul weather gear from Gill, and a lot of blocks from Harkin and lines from New England Ropes. Those kinds of things really help get the boat together. But then also the support from, some raising awareness for U.S. Patriot Sailing, which is a nonprofit that I've been volunteering with for the last couple of years. And they've been a big part of that team aspect. I'm doing this to raise awareness for them, but a lot of the team members have also helped me along the way, whether it's, helping out with boat projects or just that emotional support or being there for you along the way. And then also through some fundraising through them also to help cover some of the costs as well. So it's definitely been a big project of a lot of people supporting this campaign, getting it there. And yeah, this is something that I would not be able to do by myself, by any means at all. So it definitely takes a full group, and it's a full community. I mean, I really feel like it's a combination of the U.S. Annapolis sailing, and military veteran community all coming together to make this happen. And that's why I'm really excited to get on that starting line and represent this whole large, diverse community that I'm sailing for. So I'm really excited for it.
So, Pete, is your girlfriend into yachting? Because all I can imagine here, I've got an idea. I'm going to buy this little boat, 6.5 meters long. We're going to go sail it. We're going to go move to France, and then I'm going to do a big long race in it. Should be pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah. No, she definitely is into sailing. So she is actually the director of the basic sail training program at the U.S. Naval Academy right now, which is funny because that's where I went to school, and I was on the offshore sailing team there. So it's funny that she works at the place where I know a lot of the coaches, and I really feel like I grew up sailing there. But she is fully into sailing and does it every day.
Yeah. Now I get it.
Yeah.
Hey, she's the instructor. You're the schoolboy.
Yeah.
Righto. Hey, I know how that goes. I used to be an instructor.
So you would think that, So she started working there a couple of years ago, but she was actually my boss this summer. So I went back to Annapolis to work, and she was my boss for a couple of months while I was teaching sailing to the mids.
And so you got a few. Did it go like you got a few good performance reviews, and you thought, well, I might ask her out, or did she exert her authority as the boss and say, right, this is happening? How did that break down?
So, we started dating before she got that job. So we started dating almost 4 years ago before she was working at the Naval Academy.
Don't wreck a good story,
Pete. It was different from that.
Hey,
don't let the truth get in the way.
I know. I wish I had a good story, but no. I know.
You could ramp it up a bit more than that.
I love it. Well, speaking of good stories, can I just, the red, white, and blue thing, right? Like, you Yanks love doing that, right? And I'm not sure if Yanks is offensive to you guys, so I apologise if it is for any American listeners. There's no lack of love.
No, it's not offensive.
Yeah. But did you...
One of my sponsors is Yankee Marine. They help electronics.
Okay, so we've done well. Is it... when you were looking at branding and putting the whole thing together, you got all your guys together and you were starting talking about it, did you ever think, why don't we do a bit of green and gold? You ever thought of, was that ever mentioned?
No, it wasn't mentioned. I don't know why. No, I think, why not? The red, white, and blue, why not? Go all out.
Oh, dear, I love it. Hey, one thing I do want to ask, mate, I remember, you've got this cool boat, but you're over there in France and there's so much development going on in the mini stuff. Looking at all these new boats, is there anything that's sort of been catching your eye that you really like personally is just jumping out to you and you think, oh yeah, that boat's cool?
I mean, I think definitely seeing the new foil design on the new minis, the prototypes, I think that's definitely been cool. Seeing that, but then also I think on between the different classes, between like the Mochas and the minis, seeing the different foils, how they've been evolving on the the large and the mini scale. Mm-hmm. I think that's been fascinating to see because on this pontoon where we have 90 minis, there's also a couple of different generations of Mochas on here too, to include one that's on the Vendée Globe, one that just finished the ocean race. The old 11th hour boat is here on the pontoon with us. So seeing the different generation of foils on the Mochas and then also the different generation of foils on the minis, it's really interesting to see the evolution of that.
It is.
I mean, not even the foils as well, right? Just even the hull shapes. That's what blows my mind.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
You walk down that, and then you look at the 40s as well. Whole different story. Some super cool stuff.
Yeah, no, there's a Class 40 on, it's a relatively new Class 40 on the pontoon here. And yeah, with the scow bow, those things are huge. They almost look like an older generation of Mocha in terms of the amount of deck space they have on there. It's pretty wild.
Wow. It is cool.
I think this is a really good point where we're heading here. In relation to one of the first, I remember vividly actually, David Raison's first ever scow bow boat, sailing against it in Lorient. The thing just lit up, and you looked at it and you went, no, there's just no way, but it did. The mini class is a massive development class for what we see today. I mean, there's a lot of the first foiling boats are in the mini class, the first scow bows are in the mini class. That's just such a cool thing to be involved with. And as you say, the new designs are really, but it continues to change, doesn't it?
No, absolutely, and I think it'll be interesting too for the designs because his designs, his scow bows, they've done well. His won the last race in 2021. That boat's in here again with a different skipper. But it'll be interesting to see, is that design that's been a couple years old now, is that still the winning design, or is there going to be a new design that's, beating that? Because the design that's a couple years ago is still doing really well. So it will be interesting to see the evolution of that.
Well, the other thing that's going on, and you mentioned it sort of with all the different foils and stuff, is this sort of high foiling versus low foiling sort of thing that's going on in the protos. So it's not just the scow bows, and it's the way they're going to foil the boats. And I'm interested in that because I sort of in my mind, I think that the obvious way to go is the lower foiling mode. But I'm intrigued. Have you got any? You haven't seen those boats out sailing yet because they're all pretty new. I take it.
Well, no, I've raced against them on the race course, so I've seen them out there.
Yeah.
It definitely depends on the different conditions, and I'm really interested to see. So there's one boat that's fairly new that has both the foils and also a dagger board setup. So it's got two on each side, and that boat's done really well in some of the races. So it'll be and that's more of like the lower foiling mode, and so it'll be interesting to see how that compares to the higher foiling mode with a boat like Nicomatic, which I'm sure you've seen, where that comes out of the water really high. And so depending on the wind conditions, the weight, the sea state, what part of the race course you're on, it'll be really interesting to see how these boats perform. And I think this edition of the race is going to be, different from some of the previous in seeing how much of a difference that's going to be. Is that going to be, are you getting to the finish line 12 hours sooner or 3 days sooner? I think it could be fascinating to see the time on this edition.
I feel like the boat with the foils and the dagger board should be from the Swiss Army boat. Instead of the Swiss.
It's a Swiss team.
I love it.
Hey, I'm imagining the dock out. Do you have yourself a dock out song, Pete?
Oh.
No, I got to figure that out. I haven't. I'm looking for recommendations, but I still got to figure out a song for that, and then also for the finishing too.
Oh, I could get my guitar.
Haven't figured one out yet.
I've got a chant. USA.
Oh yeah, what's that?
I love it.
So that'd be good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing I will suggest with your dock out songs and your rival songs is just make sure it's one you like listening to because you're going to hear it a lot. That's all I'll say.
That's definitely true.
It's very cool.
That's definitely true.
So with the sort of development of this, you've done a lot of sailing on lots of different offshore classes, as you said. With you were at Navy Academy, you were in the offshore team there, and you got to sail lots of different types of boats. I'm interested from your perspective, the minis. Every boat has a characteristic where they're really good at. Something that really stands out about them. What's the thing about the mini for you that you go, yeah, this is my favourite thing about sailing minis?
I think my favorite thing about the Mini is definitely the downwind sailing. When it's blowing 20 to 25 knots, you have the big spinnaker up and you're just hauling out on wind, surfing down big waves out in the ocean. You got that big, the big swell, and you're just, going 15 knots plus surfing. And that's my favorite part of the Mini is when you get the spinnaker up and you're just sending it. That's the best part. When you're going upwind, light air, going 3 knots in the chop, that's when it's just terrible. But the heavy air offshore, I mean, that's what the boat's designed for. That's my favorite part about it.
Yep. It's very cool. What about, like, when you're down below, like, are you just in a beanbag? Is that how you're doing it? Or have you got a chair or you got, like, a hammock? What are you doing? What's your program?
So I have a little camping pad that's like a little air mattress that you can blow up. But it's one of those ones that's very small, very thin. Basically, how do you get the most comfort with the least amount of weight and not taking up the least amount of room is kind of the balance here. So mine weighs, only a few grams, so it's really light. Whereas, a beanbag might weigh more or take up too much space. And then you also got to tack it from either side depending on where you want to sleep. So I just have that with a little sleeping bag, and that's been good for me. But yeah, there's not much down below in the boat because I just have, on either side of the cockpit, I have just one bunk on either side there. So you got a little room to sleep. It's not much, or a lot of times you sleep in the cockpit too. So especially if I have the spinnaker up and we're surfing down waves, the last thing I want to do is go down below and then broach, break something, blow a kite up. So if we're doing a lot of downwind sailing or a lot of something that requires your attention, I'll be taking a lot of naps in the cockpit.
Wow. It's a commitment, isn't it? How's the commitment?
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. It is a massive test on yourself, and that's probably the biggest part. Have you what sort of training have you done, if you like, mentally? Do you sort of have any sort of form of meditation or any form of instruction from people, or are you just doing it as you do it?
No, so I think my training going into this, I think I had a good background established for it, because even though before I got this Mini, even though I hadn't been offshore in a decade, those 10 years were spent in the military doing a lot of military training, doing deployments, things like that. So, going for long periods of time with little sleep, or whether it's going out to the field for training exercises or deploying overseas. I mean, I had a lot of practice in sleep management and sleep deprivation and just trying to push through a tough situation. So I think that was some really good, mental training going into this. So everything out in the ocean it's a lot easier when, because it's a sport. It's obviously it's survival out there, but it's also a sport as well. So the stakes are a little different than they were when, I lived in, Afghanistan for 9 months, or, traveling around the Middle East in different places. The stakes are a little different doing a sporting event than
puts it into perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So there's no rockets coming over here for in the Mini Transat. So
You'd hope not.
It's a little different. But a lot of the practice I've gotten is on the races. So, for the France, the Azores and back, that was 24 days of racing with about 2.5 days of rest in between the two legs. So, 24 days at sea on a 6.5 meter boat, you learn how to push through difficult situations over time.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
How do you reckon you'd go, Jordan? You like yourself?
Oh, yeah.
You reckon?
Oh, look, it's the sleep thing, mate. I'd be doing the 8-hour naps, no problems. I'd have a fully loaded bed. I'd probably put a water bed in there just to make it feel comfy, flashing around. But no, it should be just visualising it's pretty intense. But, flashes are brilliant when I'm awake. That's all I'm going to say.
Flashes of brilliance.
Yeah, no, you got to talk yourself up while you're doing it. I'm interested though. We've got to get to this. A couple of critical things that we want to make sure you've done in your preparation, because that's what Barkarati does. We're here to help you with your preparation.
Thank you.
First off, Sunfish Union. Have you reached out to the Sunfish Union?
I have not, but I've heard about them, and I got to be careful of them out there, right?
Yeah. Well, the other one, of course, is now that there's another union muscling in, the Orcas, and they're going to come into play as well.
It's wrong, though, isn't it? It's wrong.
Yeah, it's crazy. Have you got any sort of plan for that? I mean, if you do hits, it's tough.
So I definitely have thought about that.
Yeah. Well.
So I guess what I'll say is I've definitely thought about that. I mean, in the 2021 race, one of the other boats had the rudders bitten in half from an orca. So it's definitely a real threat out there. And I've thought about it, and I'm not sure all the ways are necessarily legal, but all I'll say is I am not going down without a fight. So if an orca's coming against my boat, I am doing everything I can to get that thing off and away from my boat. Whatever it takes.
So you've still got your guns, then, Pete.
I'm not going down without a fight, though.
So you've still got your guns, right?
Not my guns. No, that would be really illegal. But I'm just saying, there's got to be some ways. There's got to be some ways to keep them off. Whether it's flares or.
I've got an idea.
I got knives on the boat. Whatever it takes to get this thing to stop. And my boat's not high off the water too. So if it's coming out the rudder, that's only a foot behind the boat. I'm not going down without a fight.
I've got an idea. With often on a boat.
What's the idea?
Yeah, often on a boat you'll carry a spare rudder. You can change out your rudder, right? And we think about that. What we need to do in the event, with an orca coming in, we have a false rudder that's longer and deeper that you can just hang over the back and taste really bad. So when they go for that one, right? And they bite that, it's sacrificial, it means nothing. And then, it just makes them go, oh, yuck, that was awful. And they take off in the other direction. So you've got to have something just to chase people away. So I think that
that's a great point.
I'm sure you'll keep that in mind.
I also have a spare spinnaker pole. And I figure getting knocked on the head with a spinnaker pole wouldn't feel too good if I was an orca. So I think there's definitely some options.
Yeah, cool. Cool. All right, mate, we're nearly out of time. Is there anything that people could do to help you in any way?
Oh, definitely. Well, first, for starters, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone that has supported this campaign. I mean, it's been 3 years in the making, whether it's the sponsors that have provided a lot of the gear and a little bit of the funding. And then there's been a lot of people donating so far that have really, really helped. So huge thank you to them. But if anyone is interested in continuing to help, there's still plenty of bills I need help covering to make this happen and to keep going. So if anyone wants to donate, they can definitely donate through uspatriotsailing.org. Or if you go to my website at pgnoceanracing.com, they can find all the links there as well. But definitely it all comes down to the funding for a lot of this stuff is, everything's a balance between, safety, performance, and funding. You can't have having all three would be awesome, but there's definitely some risk management things that you got to factor in when it comes to the funding. So if anyone wants to support, highly encourage them to do so. And I'm really appreciative and grateful for all the support I've had so far.
Very nice.
Well, you're going to have a couple of blokes here keeping a close eye on it. So, mate, best of luck. We'll be watching for the Star Spangled Banner off that start line next week.
Strangled banner.
Highly supported.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Oh, man. So excited to see one of my old boats doing this race. It was so cool to see this pop up on my feed, which is why we ended up having Pete on the show. With all these projects, you put so much effort in, but to see one of them doing this race with the level of almost, I'd say, professionalism that Pete's got.
Have you got another one in there as well, BP?
No,
or it's just this one for this time around? Yeah,
just this one. It wasn't easy. We were actually the first ever non-French project to become a series. And I don't know if anyone, or if for the listeners out there, to become a series boat, you have to build and sell 10 boats.
Yeah.
Right? Off the bat.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we did that. But it's so exciting to see this boat taken seriously because it's kind of one of those things where, the French scene is so tight that when you're not a French design or a French, it's very difficult to sell to a French because the French, they all want their Pogo 3s and these types of boats. So it was very difficult, but to see one actually doing this at this level, I think Peter's got a good head on his shoulders and he seems to be taking it very seriously.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. We forgot to mention one thing for him to help him win the race.
Dude.
That was his nutrition.
Yeah. I got to say that mini racing is not easy at the best of times. And so, if you can get yourself some proper nutrition on the boat, then, you're going to do a lot better. So it's a perfect example where Radix will fit in there. Radix is designed for this sort of level of performance.
Yeah,
absolutely. So gone are the traditional days of grabbing a box of chicken off the dock in Australia, grabbing a few tuna, ham and cheese croissants in France, load your boat up with Radix nutrition. That'll get you through.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Yeah.
The other thing interesting, they're introducing their V9 breakfast now, which they look amazing. These 7 different flavors in their original and ultra ranges. So they've got things like strawberry, apple cinnamon, banana, coconut, mixed berries. It looks pretty cool. I'm actually pretty excited about that. So of course our friends at Radix, offer performance through health. It's a go-to brand for athletes or anyone looking for a simple way to improve their nutrition. And we've had a lot of feedback on that. So remember, if you do go to the Radix website, Radix Nutrition, and you buy some, if you type in the promo code BARKARATE, one word, you will get a discount, 10% discount. So anytime you're looking to buy some Radix, just jump on board and remember BARKARATE sent you there, and everyone wins.
Everyone's a winner, baby. That's no lie.
Everyone's a winner, baby. That's no lie. That's the truth.
Cool. Events. Our club event that I want to mention, I'm going to put into the listener of the week because it's a good email. But I do want to mention there's a few events coming up. Obviously, there's a few World Match Racing Tour events on this week. So the women's one's in Copenhagen, and the men's is in Estonia. So keep your eyes out for that if you're into the match racing. This week we also got the J80 World Championships in Bayona. Where you are now, boss, you've left the
I've left
the AC.
Villanova.
Yeah.
I've left Zero Wind in Villanova to be sitting here in Zero Wind in Porta Potales for the TP52 Super Series, last regatta of the year, starting in the next ARSO.
Very cool. And then, of course, next weekend will be Sail GPs on again in Italy. There's going to be some tired puppies left over because those boys...
I tell you what, I think Bicey and I touched on it this week while we were watching the bins collapse the other day when it was really rainy. The amount of work that these guys have got on, it's unbelievable, and going from this boat to that boat and this boat and back again, it's insane what these guys have got on, and girls.
So next year will be, it's been there now, right? Because AC40, AC75, Sail GP.
Yep.
The only people that get a rest, I guess, is Team New Zealand next week because they won't have a wing.
Ah,
yeah.
Good point.
So
that's why they're showing out this weekend. We'll come back to that.
They're out. They were out in force last night. I can tell you that much.
Boys, yeah, cool.
K1W1s.
We'll come back to it. We'll just go on to our listeners of the week, presented by Vokobi. So remember, we'll be deciding our listener of the month. Vokobi's going to be giving a $200 voucher to the listener of the month each month for the next year. So make sure if you've got something interesting or informative or fun, just send it through, and we'll
$200. That's a harness. That's a wetsuit.
Plenty. Yeah, and the gear's good gear. Good gear. I did notice I went sailing. It's been a good weekend for me, boys. I went sailing all day yesterday. Paddled the ski this morning. Didn't quite get the best wave ever ridden, but came close a couple of times.
Second best.
Good
Second
swell.
best wave ever ridden.
Yeah. And then I haven't surfed for a while because of a stuffed knee, but I went for a surf this Arvo. The wife dragged me out for a surf, and it was went good. Went good.
Mate, you're like the ultimate waterman.
A waterman.
You are a waterman.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Yeah, but I did notice on yesterday,
waterman.
I was full Vokobi.
And you were sporting all your Vokobi kit.
Fully Vokobi'd up. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. I've got to try and find a photo. Of course, so for our listeners of the week, it's easy. Just send something in to cheers@barkarate.com. One of the ones...
our girls to choose the winner.
Yeah,
get our IT team onto it.
That's it. So one of the people that stood out this week is we've made comment about there's not much sailing going on at the America's Cup event in Villanova. I tell you what, they are underpaying their media team because the amount of emails we've got this week from the America's Cup, we have to just mention it. They're working hard.
Are they going in the running for the $200 Vokobi voucher?
Probably not, but
is it just sheer volume?
I'm just going to talk up. I'm just talking up their efforts so that the bosses, whoever's
like
paying them,
Post.
listens in. Exactly like Australia Post, that era we went through. But yeah, whoever's paying them, you're underpaying them. They're working their asses off. The other one got a lot of mail from, and another one that's sending a lot of emails out is the Team Australia America's Cup Challenge, the women's and the youth. we're getting a heap of emails because they've had a big camp this week. We might come back to that as well because there's a little bit of inside goss. I'm not sure how much I should give away, but I've got a little bit of goss. But I do want to mention an email we got from Chris Gartnam. Gents, wanted to reach out on a couple of things. First, Denver Sailing Association has a fall regatta coming up October 7 and 8 at Cherry Creek Reservoir, just outside Denver, Colorado.
Cherry Creek.
Cherry Creek. I'm going to call it John Denver, Colorado, just because it sort of pops into my head. Races both Saturday and Sunday.
John Denver, Colorado.
with dinner after the races on Sunday. So if you go to denversailing.org and look up their regattas, you'll find all the details. He also thanks us for the promotion of sunburn prevention in the episode a few weeks ago. Being in Denver, a mile above sea level, the sun is even more intense. For example, being 1/4 ginger, wow, you're just a ginger. You can't apportion it. I can burn in as little as 15 minutes on the lake without protection. Sailors are starting to take it more seriously, but glad you're promoting prevention and bringing it to the forefront, mate. That's exactly why we did that episode, because we thought it was pretty critical. He also wants to say Mike Khalil ought to be the listener of the month. Solid dude who does a lot for his club here in Colorado.
Hang on.
I know, you can't lobby.
Listeners, you can't put in your suggestion for listener of the month.
I think they can.
Oh, no.
I'm into it.
Yeah, and they can send money as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Next thing you know, we're going to get a whole bunch of random, this bloke's got to be listener of the month. What for?
Yeah.
We don't care if there's $20 in the envelope.
I love a $20 bill in an envelope.
Anyway, thanks again. Your
Brown paper
podcast
bag.
is fantastic. It's a good email. Well done. Nice.
Good one.
Solid.
Good one.
Solid. So remember that event, as I said, denversailing.org, Cherry Creek Reservoir, 7 to 8 October. Get on it.
Ole, 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 ole. Feeling hot, hot, hot.
It's hot time with Bice.
Feeling hot, hot, hot.
Gentlemen, before we start talking about all the regattas that are going on as we speak,
Yep.
It is well and truly boat show season. Cannes is wrapping up as we speak.
Yep.
At the moment. We've got Genoa coming up. We've got Monaco coming up. So we've got a bunch going on. Southampton's
on right now, yep.
Correct. So, yeah, she's all go in that part of the world. It's
Newport,
a busy time in yachting. We just spoke about how busy these yachties are, especially at that pointy end in Cup World and Sail GP, which are the next things to talk about. But so what are we recording Sunday morning before Super Sunday, and with our roving reporter on the ground, Mr. Brett Perry? What are the conditions like in Villanova, my friend?
Well, I'm just looking over the balcony right now at the race area. I can safely say there's absolutely sweet FA.
Nada.
Yeah, that sucks. So we've had 2 races that count, right? Where it's been a lot of touchdown, and today is the match racing. So that's it. There's no more fleet races today, is there? It's just the match race.
I don't know what they're going to do because they only got 2 races away yesterday.
Yep.
So I don't know whether they're going to try and get,
I'm just having a look at the weather here now, and it looks absolutely nothing.
Yep.
Well,
it's getting
as
less.
As I
than what
said
there
to
is
you,
now.
I am actually on the ground here roving.
Correct.
And yep, there's nada.
But you're right. My understanding is it's a match race today, which will be between Orange Express and Team New Zealand.
Wow.
There was a bit of controversy, I believe, yesterday with Luna Rosa getting reinstated in the first race.
Yep.
To tell you the truth, I haven't really delved into it too much, but essentially the French and the K1s are going to be racing side by side today.
Can I just say something? Yesterday we were obviously, right next to the action. We were watching it live. In the last race in particular, it was just spectacular. There was the Swiss, for example, got on the foils at the start and did not come off until the bottom leg. So they went upwind and downwind and were 1 leg in front. Everyone else was off the foils, right? it was just a masterful display of apparent wind sailing. But then who gets up on the foils at the top mark? Team New Zealand. Here we go, Pete Burling. It was so impressive. He's gone. The Swiss have got to the bottom. They did a jibe and they've come off the foils, and then Team New Zealand just comes all the way downwind and then all the way back upwind
and take the win.
Yes, jeez. I mean it was it.
Yeah,
you know this people say it's not an art form and it's not spectacular. I actually looked at it from that point of view. That not only did they get up on the foils at the top mark, which was even harder to do because they're going downwind, they held it the whole way from the top mark to the bottom back up. It was very impressive.
I mean, Jordan, and you'll have a bit of jealousy on here, but I got to manage to have a bit of a look at these boats, your favourite boats.
Yep.
And they are sensational machines.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it is a spectacle, but what a pity. The weather that we had.
Yep.
Like it rained once in 3 years in bloody Barcelona.
Yeah.
Rain in Spain.
Yeah. And now no wind.
Well,
is this something to be read into about for the Cup next year?
There's plenty to take from the racing that we've seen, right? So first off, obviously touching down, it becomes a big thing. The fact that they're towing the boats so they can be towed up until 3 minutes, and so
30, yeah.
Yep. So they're motoring around, towing these boats up to speed. So, and then they just got to keep them moving and staying on the foils. That means that, the pressure in light winds, if it is a match race and they do actually go for a match race, the ability to flick someone off the foil, just give them a quick luff and get them off the foils, that's going to have that's the whole race gone. So the match racing element's going to be pretty intense.
Unless it's 4 knots.
Yeah, if it's light winds. The other thing that really has jumped out to me is the starting. No one's behind the box anymore when you're starting. You've got to be above the box so you can accelerate and reach down. So they're actually all dive bombing in like seagulls on a chip. They're all coming in and trying to get into the box that way. So it's changed the whole way that we look at starting. And
in the light stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but even in the windy stuff, you can still do that play. The only thing is obviously windward boat's going to have to keep clear, so you can be luffed out of the box. But that the way people are looking at it is quite interesting, And the other thing in the light winds is they're not really worried about getting to the start line on time. They're just wanting to get there when they're on their fours. So they're looking to move and try do their manoeuvres in pressure, So the whole
Both races yesterday, there was a couple of boats. They got on course side because they were still trying to get there.
Yep, they're all. Exactly.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Yeah,
it is. And the other thing that sort of stood out to me is how aggressive the main sheet system's moving on those. boats.
Yeah,
like that's got to be detaching the flow all the time.
The guy on the Traveller, he's so busy.
He's a busy little traveller.
No, I agree. It's very aggressive, but it's obviously a technique.
Yeah.
To almost be pumping this thing.
Yeah,
is that what we're seeing?
Yeah, it is. It is quite interesting. And then, of course, is the transition through the tacks and jibes, and then changing skippers. That is quite interesting.
We did come up with a bit of a theory on this one, Jordan.
What's that?
And especially for the Swiss, especially for the Swiss. That they've gone well, but they're struggling to find their two helmsmen, Al and Guy.
Yeah.
Oh dear, I don't know why
we don't know which side. We don't know which side Al and Guy is on. But...
One side each.
But
anyways,
I'm still fired up. I'm still fired up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, listen. Can I say that on top of the fact that sailing revolves around weather, right? We know that, okay? That's a given, and that it has not produced the perfect weather. But can I say the event itself? I mean, yesterday in particular, other than the rained out day, Bicey, which we experienced in full steam, the day yesterday, my God, the mood in this town is phenomenal, and I'm so excited about the next events. I think there's going to be, I think it's built. It hasn't dropped off. Put it that way.
I'd like to see more of it.
Here.
I just want to keep it coming. That's what I mean. I'm sure they'd love to build into more, but yeah, I do want to see more. So if the people out there listening in, just keep making more races. You know, and I'm ready to come for a yacht. Speaking
of racing, Sail GP next week.
Yep.
In Toronto. Of course, the big discussion is based around Team New Zealand making it or not. And from what I hear is, no chance.
Okay.
The spare wing is in NZ.
Yep.
So for them to be on the start line is going to be a pretty big call.
Devastating.
So,
devastating for the Kiwis. I tell you, it is devastating, but obviously there's a good for them. You know, it's because most of those guys are on the AC team. They'll just get more time on their AC boat. So, you know, the Kiwis are looking pretty strong on that boat. They've definitely been the first to have those boats and B2 boating. They've definitely got a lot going on. But if we look back...
I watched that incident pretty closely a couple of times. How lucky were they?
Oh, yeah. Someone didn't get taken out.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
I dread to think about it, you know, these sort of incidents, you know, at this level, but man, they were so lucky.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's good. We're glad they're safe.
Next big event.
I just want to mention one thing before we run away from Sail GP. Just the Spanish again in Saint Tropez. The Spanish. First off, congratulations to the GBRians.
Yes.
Great to see them have a big win.
Jabarians.
Yeah, Jabarians. That's a good one. I like
that name.
Yeah, the Jabarians.
Jabarians.
But the Aussies there, but Spain, the consistency is really coming for Spain, and it's good to see. Happy to see the Spanish having a bit of love and doing well. Okay, sorry, Weiss. I spoke over.
The Super Series boys kicking off in 2 days' time, last of the season as mentioned, and we're probably seeing a team outperform anyone else like we haven't for many, many years, and that's Provetza, who are currently around 20 points clear at the top of the leaderboard. So
having a cracker of a year.
They're having a fantastic year, and it's going to be hard to see them not walk away with the overall win for the whole year, but it'll be interesting to see what happens here, of course, and if we're going to get any breeze, because the whole Mediterranean doesn't look as though there's any breeze for at least a week.
Yeah.
So, we'll see where that ends up. I might go for a little stroll down there in a minute and get a bit of a gossip.
Yep.
Jeez, how good are we? We're on the pulse, aren't we? Hey?
Oh, we're on the pulse, all right. But just reiterating, Provetza currently leading, Platoon second, Quantum third. So, and Quantum only 1 point up on Gladiator coming into the last race of the series.
Beauty. Cool. Anything else, my friend?
No, that's it from me.
No, perfect from me. Timing's perfect. Battery's about to run out.
I'll just mention the A-Class Worlds. I think we've got one race left to go. It's pretty good racing going on at the moment. It's a good battle. The Pole, Jakob Surovic is in the lead, 18 points. Misha Heemskerk from the Netherlands, 23 points.
Oh, Mish, yep.
Darren B. Bundock, it's in the results as Darren B. Bundock, 26. Then Ravi, our mate Ravi Parent, Barkarati guest.
We're going okay, Barkarati.
Friend of the show.
There's a couple, there's a couple there in the top few. And then Stevie Bruin and Adam Beatty next. And then my old mate down in 11th, Tom Boland from Denmark. He's an old mate of mine. Good to see you there, buddy. Going well. So the A-Class is having a bit of fun.
Where are they being sailed again?
I think they're in Toulon or something. I'm pretty sure they're in Toulon.
So, that ruins my joke. Anyway.
Oh, sorry.
But there is a pole in pole. But they're not racing in Poland, so
it's a good try. I like it. You had a fair effort. That's cool. All right.
Cool.
I think we're done and dusted. BP's about to drop out.
Yep.
I've got to get on a plane, heading back to Portugal today. So, for all those people here.
I'm on a plane back to Oz tomorrow. So, all good.
Oh, I'm
Living the dream.
I'm going to go
You're
and get.
going for a surf.
I'm going to get my wood plane out and make some nice timber. That's the only thing I could think of. Sorry.
Think of that what you will. Think of that what you will.
I'm going to make some timber.
I was just trying to think of a random plane that I had access to, but I don't.
It's witching hour in the Spencer house. Farewell.
Righto.
Oh.
All right.
Love you.
Thanks for
boys.
listening, everyone. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Good to chat to you, boys. And
Yep.
best of luck, Pete, next week. Cool. And for our listeners, remember, just go to Radix Nutrition and use the promo code Bar Karate. Get 10% discount where you can get your balanced nutrition anywhere. And let's be honest, in the middle of the ocean, rather than cooking, bit of Radix. It's delicious. It's the best thing for you. You'll love it.